Last time, we showed the establishment of these seven Boolean variables and then used one of them in this simple if statement. Immediately after the if statement, there is a printout, and this printout gets run regardless of what happens up here. But if your eye scans this wrong, you might conclude that what happens inside of the body of this if statement happens, and if it does, that is, then this line of code wouldn't happen. And it's a very common mistake, and it's a very common trick that test makers will give to test whether or not you are understanding how if statements work. So note that this line does get printed, and it says this gets printed regardless of whether it is raining. Okay, and that's because the statement up here is conditional upon whether it's raining, but this statement is not. Let's just now look at how we would have an if-else statement. So this part is the same syntax. The highlighted here is the same as the code here. But immediately after this if statement and its body, we follow with an else statement and its body. And the thing and the utility here is that what happens inside of the body here never happens if this body runs. And contrawise. So in other words, exactly one of lines 23 and lines 26 will run. And this is distinct from the situation in terms of the relationship between line 16 and line 19. And in our specific example, we see it says, I worry my sodium brick will ignite, which is the condition when it is raining. Okay, but we never say, my sodium brick is perfectly safe with an eye roll, because even if it wasn't raining, I wouldn't be comfortable with you carrying a sodium brick around. Nevertheless, in our current situation, it is in fact raining, and so we worry that the sodium brick will in fact ignite. So that is an example of an if-else statement. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Suppose you brought your umbrella, in which case you will be sure to be dry because you brought your umbrella. But if you didn't bring your umbrella, if you didn't bring your umbrella, it will not be raining. Only one of these is true. Okay, only one of these gets printed, and sure enough, what gets printed out is I will be sure to stay dry. If we were to reverse the truth value of I brought my umbrella, then the opposite choice, it better not be raining, would appear. So if you didn't bring your umbrella, it better not be raining. Sort of the natural conclusion here. So this is the same character, has the same characteristics as this if-else statement. It's just a different example. Another category of use for if statements is what's called the else-if statement, which sounds and seems confusing, but it's what we use typically if there are three or more exclusive cases. And the test takers love to give these to you because they're some beautifully deceptive and confusing examples. Here we have the three possibilities. Rain could be trouble, and it could be raining. So, well, sorry. If rain could be trouble, then something could get wet that ought not. But if rain couldn't be trouble, but it is nevertheless raining, I'll get wet, but I don't mind. Okay. And finally, this else statement happens exclusive of the other two, in which case it is neither the case that rain could be trouble, nor is it raining. So we say that it's nice weather, and if I get wet, it's still not a problem. In our actual situation, all of our Boolean variables are true, and so we say something that what gets printed out is something could get wet that ought not. More commonly, what you're more likely to see in a test is sort of an option of two sets of ifs and else ifs, the one that's highlighted here as compared to the one that's highlighted here. In our printout, we see you get an A, and then it says you get an A, and then it says you get a B. And so in our next video, we'll explore how it is that we see some inconsistency over here, and how that corresponds to potential confusion when using ifs and else ifs, or failing to use else ifs when you ought to.